Hey Sugar Geeks, Liz here. Today I'm going to show you how to make the most delicious pumpkin spice cake with cream cheese frosting and these adorable marzipan pumpkins. Look at how cute that is. Coming up next on the Sugar Geek Show. So the first thing we're going to do is add all of these delicious spices, our salt, our baking soda, and our baking powder in with the flour and whisk it up. Now we're going to go ahead and add the eggs, the sugar, the brown sugar, and the vanilla. So we're mix this on medium-high for 1 minute and get lots of beautiful fluff in there with the eggs, and that's going to create the delicate texture of the cake. This is my Bosch Universal Plus mixer. I'll have a link in the description below and in the blog post, but you can also use a KitchenAid or a hand mixer if that's all you got. All right, everything's looking nice and aerated. Got lots of bubbles in here. Now we're going to go ahead and add in our pumpkin, our melted butter, buttermilk, and oil. Make sure you're using pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie filling, which has added spices and sugar and stuff like that in it. If you don't have buttermilk, you can actually make your own buttermilk in a variety of different ways. Everything from using yogurt to sour cream or just milk with vinegar. I have all of those recipes right here. And now we're just going to mix that until it's combined. Ooh, it looks so pretty. Now we're just going to slowly add our flour mixture in until it's combined and we're done. All right, so now I'm just going to brush all of my cake pans with some cake goop, which is my homemade pan release. Works perfectly every single time, no parchment paper required. I'm using 3 8-inch by 2-inch cake pans because I think 3 layers of cake looks really pretty. The cake batter will not go all the way to the top. It'll make kind of like 1.5-inch layers. If you only have 2 cake pans, you could just use 2, and then I would probably tort those cakes in half so that they're not too thick, but 3 pans is good. You can actually use whatever size cake pan you want. Just use the cake batter calculator that's right above this recipe on the blog post, and you can choose what size cake pans you want, how much buttercream, and then it'll tell you how many cups of batter and frosting you need, and you just adjust that slider on the recipe card and it does all the hard work for you. Smooth that out and then into the oven for 35 to 40 minutes at 350 degrees. So after your cakes are done baking, you want to go ahead and let them cool in the pan until the pan's just barely warm to the touch, and then you can turn them out onto a cooling rack to cool the rest of the way. After your cakes are fully cooled, go ahead and trim off the dome and then wrap them in plastic wrap so you can frost your cakes the next day. No need to put them in the refrigerator. If you want to frost your cakes the same day, I pop mine into the freezer for about 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so I'm just going to put my softened room temperature cream cheese in here with the whisk attachment and cream it until it's smooth and lump-free. Okay, once that's smooth, we can go ahead and add in the butter. Looks really good. Okay, now we're gonna add in the vanilla and the salt and start adding in our powdered sugar 1 cup at a time. All right. So typically when I'm making, like a decorated cake, I'll trim off the edges and the top and the bottom so that when I do my slice, you don't see like that brown edge. But I don't really think I need to since the cake is basically the color of the outside. Sometimes though, like depending on how much your cake shrinks, it might be too big for your cake board. So that's another reason to go ahead and trim. So I think this will be okay. I got like a little less than 1/4 inch all the way around. All right, I have my delicious cream cheese frosting here. Load that up. So I always try to shoot for about 1/4 inch of frosting in between my layers. If you're new to this channel, I actually started my journey as a cake decorator, and I have decorated probably thousands of cakes. And when I got into just baking regular baked goods, it was like, oh, this is so much easier than decorating a full-on cake. And I've actually learned to just love simpler designs in cakes, I used to do everything super elaborate, and now I'm just like a little bit of buttercream, a little bit of decorations. It's nice, but if you want to see some of my other really cool cake recipes, I got a few hundred. Just making sure everything's level. Gosh, that looks good. So this original pumpkin recipe is based off of a pumpkin cake that I made a year or two ago. Can't remember, it's been a while. And I really liked it, it was really good. It's based off of a pumpkin bread recipe. And I had some feedback from you guys saying that was just a little bit dense and a little bit heavy, which makes sense because it was based off of a bread recipe. So I made a few tweaks to it, kind of reduced the amount of eggs, reduced the amount of oil, and just made it a little bit more cakey. So still delicious, just a little bit lighter and more cake-like. So now I'm going to go ahead and just apply a thin layer of cream cheese frosting over the entire thing, and that's going to be our crumb coat. Crumb coat is just to seal in all of the cake crumbs so that when we do our final coat, we don't have any of those cake crumbs in the final layer of frosting. Just like, see, it just wants to be all up in there. So this cake is definitely sturdier than one of my standard cake recipes, so you don't need to chill it. It's definitely able to be frosted at room temperature, and it tastes best at room temperature. So we're putting cream cheese frosting on the cake, which needs to be refrigerated, but only after 4 hours. So ideally, you would just put the frosting on there and then eat it, or you could refrigerate it if you needed to serve it the next day, but make sure you bring it out that morning so it has time to get to room temperature. Okay, now I'm gonna put this into the freezer for about 15 minutes. Okay, so now we're gonna make marzipan candy decorations. If you're new to marzipan, it's actually just almond paste and some corn syrup and I don't know, some flavoring. Like, there's not much to it, but it makes this really delicious almond candy. And you can buy marzipan at the store, definitely. It's super expensive, but you can make it yourself, and it is so easy, and it lasts for a long time in the fridge or the freezer. Recipe's just right there. So I have my marzipan candy all made, and we're gonna make some little pumpkins of all varieties, sizes, and colors, and for decoration for a pumpkin cake, because why not? You can do this out of fondant if you want, but I challenge you to give marzipan a try. It tastes really good, and it's a really nice for using around fall and for the holidays. So the first thing we're gonna do is color it. I'm going to kind of stick to the oranges and red colors. So I'm gonna take maybe a cup and color that yellow. I'm using electric yellow from Americolor. And the great thing about marzipan is it's already this sort of ivory color. So whatever color you add to it, it's gonna immediately tone down that color and make it more natural looking. I'm gonna add just a very small touch of egg yellow to this, or orange, just to make it a little bit more orangey. I'm gonna take maybe a little bit of that, add it to my second color here. I'm gonna make this orange, more of a darker orange. And if you don't wanna just add straight orange to marzipan, because it'll just sort of look dead. It won't look like it has any life to it. So I try to build my colors. Like if you were gonna make orange, you wouldn't just normally have an orange color, you would combine red and yellow. So yellow is one of the base colors of orange. So I put that in there to build up that orange color, make it look brighter. And I wanna make a few white pumpkins as well. And I'm just gonna add a couple drops of white food coloring. If you find that your marzipan is really sticky to your hands, you can put a little bit of vegetable shortening, kind of just like you would with fondant. Just kind of keep it from sticking on you. I have some leftover green here already, but this is a little bit too bright. I thought it was a little bit too neon colored. So I'm gonna take some of this and add it to my ivory. And I made this green with just some yellow and some leaf green. A little bit more of a subtle green. And then don't forget to make a little bit of brown for the stems. Just using chocolate brown. This is where wearing gloves comes in really handy. You could also use a little bit of modeling chocolate for the stems if you wanted to, and that would taste really yummy with the marzipan. So I have like a dark orange, a medium orange, a yellow, white, light green, ivory, and brown. All right, so let's go over the basics of pumpkin making. Super easy. Definitely something you could do with your kids if you wanna all sit down and make a fun little project together. Just good luck stopping them from eating all of this. So you're just gonna roll it into a ball. And then we're gonna take just a ball tool or the end of like a paintbrush. We're gonna press down on the top just a touch. Then I'm gonna use just a modeling tool to start putting in some lines. If you don't have a modeling tool, you could just use a toothpick or like the end of a paintbrush. The corn syrup tends to build up a little bit onto your modeling tool, so don't feel frustrated if that happens, because that's normal. And then because I'm obsessive, I will round out those little ridges so they don't look too fake, even though probably nobody would ever notice that, but I mean, I would. Okay, and then we just take a little bit of our brown and we make a little triangle shape, and that goes on top. And then you can use your modeling tool, paintbrush, whatever you need, just kind of push it the bottom, the base down. I kind of focus on pushing them into where the ridges are, because that's how a real pumpkin stem is. And then for the very tippy top, I'm just gonna snip it off with some scissors. Burp. You gotta make that noise. Now, let's talk a little bit about dusting. I have some petal dust here, just kind of different colors. I've got like a brown and some green, some kind of like light yellowy color, because very rarely in nature is anything just one color, even pumpkins. So I can come in with some like yellow and just add some little highlights. This gives a little bit of difference, and it's fun. It's fun for me, so don't be like, Liz, that's so extra. I know. I have kind of this darker reddish orange color. You can also mix your colors, which I highly recommend. Lots of fun. You can put them in between. It just takes color really, really well. Look at that. So fun. If you ever see marzipan candies in the store now, you'll know exactly how they made them. Oh, a cute little pumpkin. As long as you just stick to the same color palette, like you're using the orange and the green and the yellows all kind of in multiple colors, it'll just all look like it goes together. You don't have to worry about like, oh, it doesn't match. If you put it in one spot, put it in another spot, and it will all go together. I'm planning on making probably like maybe 3 of each color. So I'll do like 3 big orange ones, 3 medium, 3 yellow, 3 green, and just kind of all arrange those on top. And if I need to make some more little ones to fill out any blank spots, then you totally can. All right, our cake is all chilled. Time to put our final coat of buttercream on and decorate with our pumpkins. Before you guys ask, because I know you will, cream cheese buttercream is not good for using under fondant. It will just basically make the fondant melt. Kind of evening out that top layer with my cream cheese buttercream. All right, I'm gonna smooth this out with my bench scraper, cleaning up the edge. I'm not being super clean with my buttercream because first of all, it's cream cheese and cream cheese likes to be rustic. And it's just kind of like a nice little fun fall cake, so I'm not gonna obsess over it being super sharp edges. I am gonna make sure my sides are straight though. I have some standards. I'm actually gonna transfer this to a cake board now so that I can make sure that I get everything nice. Just kind of smooth that out. So now at this point, you could just kind of give it a rustic texture with your offset spatula or spoon. You can use a fork, whatever you want to do. I'm gonna pipe on just kind of almost like a wood texture design. So I have a number 10 piping tip here inside of a bag. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of recreate some wood texture. I'm just gonna make a little knot, go up, come down. This is not meant to be super realistic, it's just kind of fun. Something a little bit different. Okay, so we got our little fun wood texture out there, and now I'm going to make a ring of buttercream. This is blobs. We're gonna make some blobs. Some big blobs and some little blobs. And this is just gonna, so when we start putting the pumpkins on, they're just not all one layer, one height, I guess you should say. All right, we're gonna start with our big ones first. Gonna kind of put them, it's just like when you're arranging furniture. Place your big pieces first, and you fill in the gaps with the smaller ones. So stinking cute. This is totally not necessary, but I just love how it looks so much. I'm gonna take a small piping tip, a leaf tip. Looks like this. Has a little V shape with a little cut in the center. And I'm just gonna add some leaves around the edges. Even though these are not pumpkin shaped at all, it's just gonna add a little bit of texture, I feel. So once your cake is done, you definitely want to keep it in the refrigerator because of the cream cheese frosting, but the pumpkin cake and buttercream and everything is going to taste best at room temperature. So either slice your cake and then leave the slices out for like 20 minutes to let them warm up, or you can actually bring your whole cake out of the refrigerator like 4 hours before you're going to serve it, and it will be totally fine. Just don't put it in the sun. It is cream cheese. And now we get to eat the cake, my favorite part. I'm not exaggerating at all. So good. This cake literally just melts in your mouth. It is so perfectly spiced, perfectly moist, and then you get that tang of the cream cheese. All right, and we can't not have one of the little marzipans. I want to know in the comments if you've ever had marzipan before. I'm just like, what is that? Or I love that. It tastes like candy. Your brain is like, almonds? What? It just tastes like sweet, has a nice chew to it. It's almost like nougat. So good. So that's it, guys. I'm Liz Merrick. If you want more recipes like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next week. Bye.